Well, welcome to this session of ILOC. It has been a busy day, a very profitable day, a good day of learning about profitable partnerships. And this is another one in our series. And this one is really a fun one because this one, as you can see on the screen, one of our presenter screens there, they have cats, live kittens with them. This is all about a perfect, I can't purr like a kitten, but perfect productive partnership. And it's libraries partnering with nonprofits that deal with pets. And our presenters today are Jean Strable. She is the director of Norwalk Easter Public Library in central Iowa. And Jean has two adopted kittens, and Jean is the pet person. When I went to her library to present at her in-service staff day, the surprise for her staff at the lunch break was a couple of dogs from the Animal Rescue League. So she's the experienced one of partnering with these animal support organizations. She's been working in public libraries in various states for over 35 years. Another one of our librarians who started when she was 10. Yes. Nicole Rhodes has volunteered with Whiskers TNR of Warren County. And I did look up what TNR stands for. It stands for Trap, Neuter, and Return. And she's been doing that since 2018. She's the volunteer coordinator at that organization and helps to place the kittens. So I'm going to turn it over to the two of them to talk about their partnership.
Okay, sounds good. Well, I'm just going to do a quick introduction of my little friend here in my hand. This is Sylvie, and she is from the Emily in Paris litter, and I'll hand her off.
Yes, Emily no longer wished fandom, so she is on the floor already, but yes, she's also with us today.
We'll go ahead and I'm going to switch over to screen share and get things rolling here. All right. Well, thank you for joining us today for a perfect productive partnership, nonprofits helping pets. We are trying to be as equal opportunity as we can. So there will be some discussions about ways that you can partner with dog organizations and other pet related organizations as well. If you had a big lunch today and you're a little bit sleepy and you would like to see lots of cat pics on your computer screen, you are in the right place. We have you all hooked up. And as Marianne mentioned, I'm Jean Strable, the director of the Norwalk Easter Library.
And I'm Nicole Rhodes, and I'm the volunteer coordinator with Whiskers TNR.
And first and foremost, I would like to thank Nicole and the rest of the Whiskers TNR volunteers for their support of our partnership and for taking the time to present with me today. At our library, we like to provide programs that are going to be popular, of great interest, and provide educational value. And sometimes that can be a challenge in programming. I felt that collaborating with nonprofit groups working with and assisting pets is something that any library of any size, anywhere can do. And as you'll see, the library and nonprofit group pool their resources and we share the workload, and we offer a lot of creative and very well-attended events. Today, we hope to share with you some program ideas that you can replicate and modify to work in your libraries. And you will also learn a lot about cats, thanks to Nicole. And we've already kind of gone through our introductions, but we have to get to our ambassadors. And I will let you introduce our little ambassadors.
Absolutely. We don't like to start out in a negative way, but we have to be realistic, and not every story has a happy ending. Today, we had anticipated the cat on your far left to be with us. His name is Ed. And Ed was brought into Whiskers' care in early September of last year. He was found at the edge of a soybean field, so he was named Edamame, Ed for short. He was estimated to be around 3 months old and weighed 1.5 pounds, about half of what he should weigh at that time. He was diagnosed with what we call feline infection peritonitis, otherwise known as FIP. To simplify the disease, it's a mutation of the coronavirus, not contagious to humans, but just like us, cats get COVID. They've had it for a long time. Chances are, if you own a cat and you've heard little kitty sneezes, it's probably the coronavirus that they have. About 5 to 10% of those cats may develop FIP. 2 to 3 years ago, it was a death sentence, and there was no cure for FIP. Today in the market, the FDA, it's a non-FDA approved trial that we are working through that Ed had the great luck to participate in. His treatment went very well. In fact, he got to go into a foster home to be loved and have all the great things that in-home fostering allows for. Unfortunately, just this past Saturday, he took a turn for the worst. We tried our best, but it was in his best interest to humanely euthanize him. So we wanted to take time to honor Ed today. With us, you see 2 great stories, though. We have Emily, who's currently available for adoption, if anybody is looking. She's running around right over here. Sylvie, who's pending adoption for her after her spay. And Gabriel isn't with us today because yesterday he found his forever home.
That forever or forever?
Forever home.
Yeah. Nicole's also really good with puns. So if you like puns, you're also in the right place. Just wanted to tell you a little bit about our library, the Norwalk Easter Public Library. We are in Norwalk, which is a community just south of the Des Moines metro area. We serve about almost 13,000 population. Our building is pretty small. We are in the process of hopefully getting a new building. We're currently at 11,000 square feet. It was built in 1998. Our space needs studies say that we are supposed to be at about a 30,000 square foot to serve our community and have a little space for growth into the future. So you will hear me speaking of space needs periodically throughout this presentation. We do have a staff of 5 awesome folks who work full-time and 11 awesome folks who work part-time to support the library activities and programs and services. Nicole is okay with it that the library does have a mascot who is a dog, and that would be Scribbles, who is pictured on the right-hand side of your screen. And our library is located between 2 city parks and adjacent to our dog park.
I have a dog too. It's okay to have a dog.
The library does love to partner with others to bring programs and services to our patrons. So we're always looking for unique partners and things to do here.
All right. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what Whiskers TNR Warren County is. To Marianne's point, the TNR stands for Trap, Neuter, and Return. That is our main mission. Our main mission is to care for community cats that live in populations where they are not getting the appropriate attention so that they can be sterilized. So we don't continue to overpopulate the areas, which can of course lead to the spread of disease and that sort of thing. But we know that cats are advantageous to have in your area because they help keep the little rodents you don't want in your house out of your house. So what we do is we offset the spay and neuter expenses for Warren County cats. So we do ask for community caregivers to help financially with some of the cost for it, but we will help offset that cost for them. And we will make sure that the cats are well taken care of through intake and that sort of thing, helping people find appointments. But we also make them a little fiscally responsible because then we know they're going to care for the cats afterwards. We provide education on trap, neuter, and return. One piece of education here, as you can see our kitten here, if you ever happen to see a cat with part of their left ear gone, the upper third of their ear, it's not because they got in a really nice fight where somebody just took it off cleanly. That's our visual indication when we go to a TNR property that the cat has already been sterilized. So if we happen to trap it, we just return that cat right back because we know it's already fixed. We also provide education on the care of community cats. So we, show the importance of keeping everybody on a regular feeding schedule. That way if there's a new cat that gets dumped off in the area, whatever it might be, we help them understand what a community cat provides and why they should help take care of it. We provide on-site help when available, so we can come out and help trap cats, especially for those who may not be able to do that. We are 100% donation funded. We have no sponsorship, anything like that. We apply for grants, we ask for donations, that sort of thing, but it's 100% donation funded, and we're 100% volunteer managed. We spend countless hours every week with Whiskers TNR, and I would say 80 to 90% of our 90 volunteers have a full-time job, and not one of us makes a dime off of Whiskers TNR. So we don't have any paid staff members, but we do it for the passion and for the cause of TNR.
And for the purposes of our presentation, I think it helps for our viewers to know what Whiskers can do and what you cannot do. So
absolutely,
there is some information here.
So what we are not, we're not a shelter. We have a small intake building that is meant to house cats right before they get spayed or neutered and right after they are spayed or neutered and returned. We also, because we will take the kittens that are under 8 weeks of age, and we will socialize them and in-home foster them. So in order to keep our in-home fosters, we keep them in the intake building until we know they are free of outside pests like fleas. So that we will hold them temporarily in our intake building. Otherwise, they go to in-home fosters. We are not a free service. We can't provide free veterinary service for you or spay and neuter. And we are not a vet clinic. We know a lot, but we're not a vet clinic or an emergency clinic.
And it's also important to know why Whiskers is important for collaboration purposes with the library.
Right. So here we have a visual, and these are actually all Whiskers kitties, which is kind of fun. But we really use this to help educate the public on why it's so important to get your pets fixed, whether they are an inside-outside cat and they are tame versus a feral cat. One cat in just 16 months can turn into 53 cats. And cats are in season whenever it is warm. So that's a lot of cats in a year. So that's why it's so important to make sure that you are spaying and neutering your cats, because then they will also become increasingly unhealthy because it leads to inbreeding.
All right. Well, to get into our partnership, it all had to start somewhere, and these two were where it all started. Please meet Cade and Eris. They are my grand kittens. My young adult daughter had a senior cat and she wanted another cat. So of course we adopted two cats. They come better in pairs, right?
Of course, yes.
Right. They were originally literary named cats, named Dickens and Harper, but my daughter loves her video games, so they became Cade and Eris from the Destiny video game series. Nicole happened to be their foster mom, and she was super helpful and kind and taught us a lot about bringing our new kitties into the house to make sure we'd have a safe and happy home with our other cat and dogs. And we adopted Cade and Eris during COVID, and one of the things that I wanted to do was to engage our staff. I was a new library director here at the time, and we started having a staff in service day. And I like to have fun at staff in service days, and that's a whole other presentation that if you go back to Kernels, and if you want to do a staff in service day, I have presented a Kernels presentation on how to have a fun and interesting staff in service day. But for our staff in service in the afternoon, we had an extended break, and I invited Whiskers and Nicole, who brought some kittens, and it was sort of therapeutic. Everyone got to love on the kittens and cuddle with the kittens. And at the same time, I asked Nicole if they would be willing to talk to the staff about the same kind of information she just shared with you, why Whiskers work is important to our community, to help with the strays and the ferals and making adoptions and all of that kind of stuff. So there really was an educational purpose in addition to the fact that we got to cuddle kittens. I will say that from that day, we had one staff member who applied to adopt a kitten, and they were approved for the adoption, but reality checks do happen. One of the older cats that's already established in her home decided they weren't so fond of the kitten, so it had to be rehomed. And as we were coming out of COVID, we found that we were having our public who was very ready for programming. So we were kind of getting back into that flow, as all of you did. And so I emailed Nicole, who set me up with Carissa Arndt, and Carissa is the president of the Whiskers TNR, and the three of us got together for an in-person meeting. We had a really great discussion about our goals, the risks of being partners, and we decided that the risks were not so huge, especially compared to the possibilities and potential that we had for a really good partnership. So we made a lot of notes and we started to schedule some events. You can see here that this is Cade. He is now grown up and he does not wear a necktie every day, but he is all about getting down to business. After we got our events scheduled, we also decided that it would make sense for both of us to use our social media accounts. I think that both parties have very robust social media presences. And so obviously the Whiskers one has the cat track, the library one has the library track. There are some crossovers, but I think we have now seen some people who are following both, and that's a good feeling to help get the word out there. We also advertise all of our programs on the library website, in our print calendar, in the regular media, and also in the library email blasts that go out every week. One of the other things that we do is we get together either in person. Most of the time, honestly, we text each other. I am very excited on certain Saturdays that are actually called Caturdays, because usually around 12:30 when Caturday's done, I get a text from Nicole saying, "You won't believe how many people came." And then I get some pictures, and it's just great because I get cat pics and really good news. Get up to the right one. There we go. So one of the most successful things that we've done is our Caturday series. We're going to give you a month-by-month overview of our Caturday events. Caturdays are held in the library, and they're one Saturday each month. It's that Saturday from 10 a.m. until noon. I had remembered from a long, long time ago when I worked at the Columbia, Missouri Library, they offered a Saturday event with the Humane Society there, and they brought in dogs, and people got just overjoyed because they got to come and pet dogs and meet adoptable dogs and find out more. And so they had them in a playpen. Volunteers would visit with the patrons and kind of feel out if some of these folks might be good candidates to adopt one of the dogs. So when I mentioned it to Nicole and Carissa, they got excited, and we planned out our first event. I remember sitting in my office and saying, "What should we name it?" And she said, "Caturdays." So again, lots of puns, be prepared. Our first Caturday was last August, and we knew it was going to be successful, but we had 110 people show up that day. Our library opens at 10 a.m. We had about 20 people waiting at the front door, waiting to get in to see cats. And it was very exciting for us. And to give you a comparison of what a day would look like, we had 110 people who came for Caturday, and our entire daily door count was 190. So most of the people had come to see cats and Nicole.
The cats, let's be honest. And so I'll move into kind of what we do every month and why that's important. So we always have two things with our Caturday. We have an educational aspect where, of course, our first one had to be, what is Whiskers TNR and why we matter, why you should care about us as a nonprofit organization. So that was the main thing that we covered. We had a simple activity with a jar of not real plastic kittens in a jar, where we had people mainly, and I almost always try to drive it towards the kids and their parents help them. It leads to greater education, I think. we had them guess how many kittens were in the jar. And it was very illustrative of that slide that we saw previously, where we see how quickly one cat can reproduce. And that was the discussion that we had. And I'll go over quickly to one of the great things that if we get other people to volunteer and that sort of thing, our top picture here is Carissa, our president, holding a kitten with some teenagers there who are very excited about Caturday. It's a great way for teens to earn their silver cord hours if they volunteer through our nonprofit. In fact, a lot of animal rescues are one of the only places where people under 18 can participate without having parental involvement or going through a bunch of hoops to help. So that was great for them. The bottom picture just displays a little bit of what we went through for our setup, and we've maintained pretty much the same setup throughout. That's our little table that we have where we'll have a lot of informational stuff, along with a couple of pop-up tents that we provide for the kittens when there aren't people here, which is rare. But it also gives us a safe place to put the kittens or cats when they've just had enough and they're here just to be looked at now. We give them little breaks throughout that. That's me down on the floor, getting close and personal with the kids and making, showing them how to hold a cat, that sort of thing. So that was our first Caturday.
And it was a really good time.
It was.
So we had also scheduled one for September, and we're just going to run you through these so you get the idea of what you can do with your organizations in your own libraries.
Yeah, so we'll quickly run through the educational aspect on this one. We covered both financial fostering and fill the gap, which are available on our website if you'd like to learn even more about them. But financial fostering is an opportunity that we provide through our organization. If you can't in-home foster for some reason, or if you live far away in Iowa, but really like one of our kittens that are available in the nursery, it gives people an opportunity to come along for the ride and see what fostering looks like from a distance. Someone else will in-home foster the kitten, but they will provide you regular updates on how the kitten is doing, send you lots of pictures and videos. So you get an opportunity to feel like what it's like to be a foster. And that's a one-time $75 fee. We also have a Fill the Gap program where we ask for donations. We'll show you a little on some illustrations of what we spend versus what we charge for adoption right now. And we adopt our kittens out for a lot less than we put into those kittens. So that's an ongoing donation that can be provided. We did a popsicle stick quiz where we just had questions on a popsicle stick and the kids were able to answer them. One thing I want to point out here too is what it really helps us with is community involvement and engagement. We get people from every age, ethnicity, everything. It's such a diverse group that comes in to see our kittens. So the first picture was a gentleman who came in to see one of my 4-week-old fosters. He was holding it, and we got one of our older Norwalk residents to come up, and they stood there for probably 20 minutes and bonded over that kitten and just had the best conversations, got to know each other. And so it was a great time had by all. Our lower picture is a little girl who had never seen a cat up close at all, let alone touch and hold a cat. So we spent a lot of time with her and let her just cuddle that kitten and get that exposure so she wasn't afraid, because at first she was a little timid and afraid of that kitten who wasn't as spicy as this one.
And I think that speaks to kind of what we want to do at the library, is provide not just book resources and book learning, but also different types of experiences. So we've definitely been doing that. And for the September session, we had 88 in attendance. And we move on to the Caturday for October.
Yeah, so for October, we publicized our winter shelters and how to build a winter shelter for a community cat. I forgot to mention the difference between a feral cat and a stray cat. The difference is, can you touch it? So A feral cat is going to hiss at you and run away, and it wants to live its life outside for the rest of its life, but it might want a warm place to sleep at night. A stray cat is probably at one point somebody's pet that got dumped and wants to live inside and be part of somebody's life. So that's the difference between the two. I'll go a little bit more into winter shelters in a little bit, because we also want to, this was a week where we had a double activity, and we repurposed it for Caturday as well. But we showed people how to build a winter shelter, which is shown on the left. On the right, we wanted to cover, there's risk, right, to having cats in the library. Yes, there are. So one of the safety measures that we do is we make sure when we, specifically if a volunteer isn't going to be there to handhold the kitten for the child, we make them into a burrito. So we wrap them tightly in a blanket so that the cat can't scratch them. It makes the cat feel more secure, and the child still gets to cuddle the kitten. And we do it for the adults too sometimes. This was a little lower attendance as well. This happened to be a weekend where everything was going on, and it was one of those nice, beautiful October weekends.
And it was also very close to another large library event that we had. So I think we had saturation from that one too, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. Moving on to November. This one was kind of a whopper. We had 220 attend the Caturday in November. And one of the things that we have learned to do is we like to stack some of our programs at the library. So Caturday takes place out in the main part of the library, right across from our front desk, where people check out and ask questions. And we do have a separate meeting room. And during this particular Caturday, the meeting room was in use for our foundation's used book sale. So we had a double whammy of people could come to buy used books, or they could also come to pet kittens. And you really can't do one without the other. So it was a really big day for us.
Yeah, and as you can see, that strudel down the bottom, he was surprised by the fact that there were 220 people that came through the door to pet him as well. For our educational aspect this time around, we talked about how free kittens aren't free. We see it a lot of times on social media or wherever, right? I have a mama cat who just had kittens. Who wants to take the free cat? Come get a cat. And what we try to point out is that if you're truly caring for a kitten the way that is ideal, to make sure that your kitten is as healthy as it can be, it costs a lot of money up front. We, on average, spend $400 per kitten that we take in, and we adopt our cats and kittens right now for $100. So that's part of where that fill the gap becomes important. As you can see on the screen, there's things from wellness exams. Every kitten, depending on their age, but typically is seen 3 to 4 times before they are adopted out. We feed them some of the best food that we can, because we have learned from our very professional veterinarians that we heal from the inside out. So they're not born in the best of conditions. And so feeding them good, nutritious food really helps them to become better kittens. We provide a microchip. We spay or neuter the cat. We have all their vaccines. We do flea preventative, deworming, things like potty pads that you wouldn't think of. We go through them like crazy. There's some potty pads in Jean's office right now, just in case, to clean up some litter if we need it. So the activity that month was a quiz board. It was very simplistic. It was a giant sticky pad with some Post-it notes over it, where I said, guess what the cost of this is that we spend on a cat. And we almost always give out a little trinket of some sort to get a prize for the kids when they at least try and go through the process. So.
Okay, moving into December. This time it was Senior Cat Month.
Yes. So I'm going to start by defining senior cat. Here you see on the bottom left, Chianti, he's part of our wine litter, is considered a senior cat. He's about 6 months old. And you're probably thinking, well, 6 months does not sound very senior to me. And you're right. He's not very old. But there's a true problem out there, and this goes across all different organizations, where everybody wants the cute little baby. And guess what? Keontae knows how to do all the things that a cat needs to do, just like versus a puppy. Do you want to potty train a puppy when you can have one that knows how to go outside? Now, granted, cats are a little smarter than dogs when it comes to going to the bathroom in the right places, but we get to know their personalities a lot more as a senior cat. And we can tell you a lot more about a senior cat. So we brought in our older cats, especially because due to seasonality, we have to get creative with who we're bringing in. And luckily, it's cold in Iowa in the winter, and therefore we did not have a lot of kittens on hand. We just have some of our older cats available. So we brought our older cats in. We did a scavenger hunt, which is shown over on the middle picture here, where I did some 3D printouts, and they went and found the letters associated with a number and did a word puzzle and won a prize for it. So that was our activity for the day. And it was funny because the senior cats were all on harnesses, as you can see Keontae is, and the kids and the parents walked the cats up and down and through the library to go find all of the hidden treasures throughout the library, which I think helped them understand like what else is available in the library, because we tried to strategically place them in different places that people might not normally get to in the library. And then I'll just point out on Angie over here on our far right. She came to our very first Caturday, and she and her family were very interested in cats. Her son particularly loves cats, and he is 10, I think his birthday is soon, is turning 10, and really wanted cats. And dad wasn't down with getting a cat, did not want a cat, but they were going to volunteer, but they were like, can we volunteer? And they filled out our volunteer application. I said, well, here's the job I have available for you if you want to see cats. Our intake building needs a deep cleaning every week. And if there are cats there, you can pet a cat. If there aren't cats there, just deep clean. So Angie signed up to clean the toilet and the rest of the intake building. And I don't think they were with us for more than 2 weeks before they filled out their volunteer or for their foster application, and now are one of our most active fosters that we have. So dad gave in and realized that the fosters just come in and leave. They come in and leave. So yeah, that was a great addition and been one of the biggest benefits for Whiskers itself in having these events.
For this particular Caturday, we did have 120 folks in attendance, and the daily door count was 211. So again, we're bringing in a lot of people for this. We did stack this Caturday with a gift wrapping event that we had scheduled for that morning as well. So we doubled up again. And moving into this month.
Yes. So just a few weeks ago, we hosted our January Caturday, and we've come a long way as far as our organization is concerned, as far as we've set, okay, it's the second Saturday of every month, because at first we were just kind of all over the board and threw a dart at what we thought we could commit to and when we had free time. So we talked about foster prep. So if anybody was interested in becoming a foster, the big picture here you can see is a cat condo that you would initially house your foster cats in until they assimilated to their home a little more before and we have to do some things before you can just let them out and roam with your cats. So there was that, along with all the pricing that it takes to get a foster set up. Whiskers pays for everything that a foster needs, with the exception of a litter box and litter. That is the one thing that we ask for fosters to pay for. So that was our educational aspect. I had some coloring pages that the kids loved and were out coloring with. Again, we had one kitten. I think in the first picture, you can see the little girl holding the one kitten that we had. That was Nellie that we had there. And then in the second picture, on the top right, what we wanted to illustrate here is that this really does, it's the highlight for some people. This lady who is talking to one of our fosters has come to I think every single Caturday. She was one of the first people in August waiting at the door. She got here before I did to set up, and she has come to every single Caturday. She finds a cat that she likes. She eventually wants to adopt. She's just not in a position to do so right now, but it brings her a lot of love and joy just to be able to come in and pet a cat, socialize with some other people, and get that bonding experience. Down below, we have a picture of Midnight, who actually, if you look at the top picture, that gentleman is holding the leash that goes to Midnight, who snuck behind the bookshelf and is sitting there and made friends with a woman who was potentially interested in adopting her. And we tried to get rid of a lot of stereotypes, right? Black cats are bad luck, that sort of thing. So we worked through a lot of those things. I think the four of them probably sat there for a good half hour, 45 minutes. Don't worry, we move people if somebody wants to check out those books. But it is pretty great. And we also, at this particular Caturday, I was telling Jean earlier that there was one lady who was really interested in the game shelf that was there and the games and puzzles. And this is so great. And I was like, well, go check it out. Like, you're at a library, you can check things out while you're here. Oh, well, I'm from a different town and I just heard about this. So I came down. I'm not from Norwalk. I can't get a Norwalk library card. So it is, the word is spreading, and it's great for everyone.
I mentioned before that we also had an October event, and this was a really big one for us. We had about 715 people attend our fall festival. We hosted each fall, and we give away about 200 mini pumpkins. Kids can dress in their Halloween costumes. This year we had a petting zoo, crafts, fall stories, balloon animals, temporary tattoos, face painting. And because I knew it was going to be a really well-attended community event, I wanted to have our Whiskers folks there so that they could see some new people and educate some of our public. And so they did provide a table and information, and also some winter shelters for cats. And I'll let you speak to the importance of the winter shelters.
Yeah, so we work with one of our medical supply companies that we get a lot of stuff from. If you know of any shelters in your area that might be interested in doing this, your medical supply company has a ton of styrofoam that they are trying to not put in the landfills. So we called them we had 20, but somebody came and picked one up early. So we gave away 19 shelters that day. First, we filled Jean's office completely full of them. We would have given away more, but they're cumbersome. So we definitely gave out a lot of information and told people how to contact us if they weren't able to receive one that day. But we educated if they wanted to make one on their own. Hay is for horses, straws for strays. To make sure that if they're making a shelter, styrofoam is a great insulator. You can cut a hole in it, put some straw on the bottom. You have yourself a winter shelter to keep your feral cats warm. We talked about how you shouldn't put blankets, that sort of thing down, because if they get wet, they can actually freeze to the cat. But it was overall a great educational experience. We had some teens that wanted a shelter. They somehow found a pair of scissors and sat there and cut the hole that needed to be made. And they were like our working project to show us how exactly they could make a winter shelter.
And it was a very successful event. And I never mind when most of our partners take over and have fun in the library. We do have a lot more fun things planned for our future. In a couple months, we're having Caturday Cat Cafe, and Nicole and the Whiskers volunteers have been looking for local coffee shop who would be able to come and do fancy coffees and hot chocolates in our meeting room and just kind of let the cats wander with the volunteers, and people could come and have coffee or hot chocolate and pet the cats and learn all the things about the animals. But we haven't been able to find the just right partner yet for the coffee. So the library is providing the coffee and you'll provide the cat. So it's going to be great. One of the other things that I have been doing as library directors, I've been mentioning our partnership because I'm proud of it and I think it's very successful. I've been mentioning it at our city meetings and I'll be mentioning it at our county supervisor meeting because I feel like we've done some really good work together. I think that our funding bodies and stakeholders like it when we can work together and cooperate to make neat things happen. And I'm hoping that it could lead to some potential future funding specifically for Whiskers from the city and the county to help you guys help the animals. Also, you'll see the pictures on this page are some adoptable cat shelf sitters. This is an idea from a library I previously worked at. It really looks like those are cats sitting there in the windowsills, and they are just cutouts is all that they are. The person who made these had a really high quality printer and a good camera and got the cats to pose in these awesome places, and then she put the little hearts on the animals, and the hearts talk about the animal's name, age, some of the specifics about it, and then tells people who are looking at it who they can contact if they would like to adopt this cat. So we would like to explore doing that here as well. Every week, the library has a teen takeover. It's more of a tween event, but we call it the teen takeover. And we get anywhere between 10 to 20 tweens who come in every Thursday after school for about an hour and a half. And we are inviting Whiskers and some cats and some volunteers to come in and do some activities with the tweens to engage them and to educate them and to also let them pet the kitties because it's fun. And I just sprung this on Nicole today. This fall, we're doing a library fundraiser and there's going to be a pet fest. It'll be similar to the fall festival. So you'll have an opportunity to have a table there and it's going to be another blowout. So I can't wait. One of the things that I would like to say about our future is that I appreciate the open communication and honesty that we have as partners. I think that both sides are getting wonderful publicity and a very good return on the investment of our time. We also use our staff, volunteers, and resources quite wisely, and I think both parties are fulfilling our missions. The library is providing firsthand knowledge of cats and animals through Nicole and her volunteers. And we're also offering education and information in a lot of fun and engaging ways. The kids and the parents really like the different games that you have, and you keep something interesting and fun every single month, and that goes over very well. People just keep coming back for more, so we're doing something right. Just as a side note, we have families in town who are referring to Saturdays as Caturdays. There's also a gal that works down at the convenience store, and I came in on a Monday morning and she caught me and she said, listen, I need to know when the next Caturday is scheduled because I forgot the last one and my daughter is really mad. So I need to put it on my schedule now. So Caturday is a big thing in our community. There are some considerations for if you're going to be doing cat and animal related events. So I'm going to let you speak to the considerations.
So allergies, everybody's worried. I'm allergic to cats. We advertise very well. One unknown fact usually is when we have the kittens produce less standards. So there's in fact, I've gotten people who said they are allergic to foster because I'm like, kittens don't produce the dander, and they get them in their home. And they're like, you're right. So most of the time allergies are not a problem. I think Jean's staff, who likes to work Caturdays on occasion, pop an extra Claritin before you come in. So, just that ahead of time communication is key. We do have to get creative we might not have the exact animals that we think we're going to have because of seasonality. So that's why we've had a couple senior cat days. I'll let you talk about space and
I kind of talked about the space before. In our library, it's one big wide open space with the exception of our meeting room. So we utilize all of our space because we just don't have enough space. So I have no problems with just letting Nicole and the volunteers know, you take over what space you need to. We always do a good job of getting it cleaned and vacuumed afterwards. So I don't really have any issues with giving up as much space as we need, other than we don't want any cats getting loose or anything like that. And I think for staffing and volunteers, we find that the more the better, just for everyone's safety. And so we can have as much engagement as possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I know we're running out of time, but I'm going to talk about the dogs in a little bit. I did want to mention the impact of our partnership on the Whiskers side.
Yeah, so we've had at least, I want to say, 4 new volunteers since August that have committed. We have 3 new foster families. I just forgot about one that I remembered right now. We've had at least 10 plus applications that we can contribute to Caturday's itself. It's probably more, but we don't have a space in our adoption application to say, where'd you hear about us? In a drop-down box that says Caturday to be done. But the biggest and best, I think, for all of us, I'm sure all of your local communities have some sort of, not city ran, but some sort of toxic social media page for your community, which we are all a part of. And what we've seen the most improvement in is a lot of blaming, a lot of just negativity, keyboard heroes behind, posting things about cats that they see around town and this and that. And while we don't have direct evidence, what we have seen is positive behavior on the page. Are you sure that cat isn't spayed or neutered? We should find a home. We can check for microchipping. Can you feed the cat? We've seen a lot of that, much more than we have the negative. We've seen not blaming Whiskers for, we might get tagged in it, but it's, can you help, not blaming Whiskers for a problem. So that has been probably one of our biggest lifts from collaborating with the library that we truly appreciate.
Yes, it's a much more positive vibe, and we like being a part of that. I'd already mentioned on the library side, we've had increases in our door counts, increase in programming statistics, both in-person programs and also things that we were able to count, like the scavenger hunts that were done during the rest of December. So we were able to count those statistics for our annual survey. It has improved the library's visibility in the community. We had some of the folks who are associated with Whiskers who came into the library for Caturday and they said, I haven't been in here in years. This is amazing. They're not wrong. Also, I think it's helped for both of us to fulfill our organizational missions. So it's very exciting to do that. And we have also had therapy dogs for another staff in service day. Again, this was from the Animal Rescue League out of Des Moines, and I brought in the dogs for the afternoon session, and it was sort of let's find out what therapy dogs are, and the volunteers talked about the program that they do and how the dogs are trained and what the expectations are. And they also help the staff understand a little more between service dogs and emotional support dogs and therapy dogs. So again, it was educational for our staff, as well as we got to pet the pups, and it was great. And we've also had the ARL dogs come to our team takeover, and they kind of hung out and added a little bit of love. Kids really enjoyed it. They alternated between playing board games, doing some crafts, and just loving with the dogs and enjoying themselves. So we highly recommend that as well. There are some additional resources, and this slide deck is in the ILOC page, so you can click on those. I'd like to give a special shout out to our friends in Marshalltown. If you're watching, you got a very nice article about also teaming up with the ARL to promote animal adoption. So way to go.
Okay, we have 1 minute left, and I do have some questions, a lot of questions, worries about allergies. And Nicole, you did address that. Thank you, because that is a primary concern for people who have family members with cat allergies. Jean, you mentioned a lot of positive responses. Have you had any negative comments about what are all these cats doing in here? Why are you bringing animals into the library?
We really have not.
Okay.
And I'm kind of surprised. I had some responses ready, but we haven't had any negatives. It's been a really positive thing for the community.
And someone asked how Whiskers is funded, and another person, I guess affiliated with your organization, gave us a very good description of that in the chat, that it is
Thanks,
purely
Carissa. I'm going to
donation.
guess that was you.
Yes. So go back and look at the chat if you need that information. One quick question. Is there a Whiskers TNR in all counties? Because you specifically talk about of Warren County.
Correct. There are different TNR programs in different counties, but not every county has a TNR program. So it's best to just Google your local TNR resources to find out who is available for your community.
Okay. And again, that TNR stands for Trap-Neuter-Return.
Correct.
And the only other question we had that you did answer earlier, and that was a concern. We've got guinea pigs in our library. Do you think we can bring in cats? Probably only if you keep the guinea pigs somewhere isolated away from the cats, correct?
Yeah, I mean, if they're in a cage, you're probably okay too. But if you have free roaming guinea pigs, I would not suggest them to be with cats.
A little bit of catastrophe, right?
Yes.
Very
Good
good.
job.
Thank you, Marianne.
Yeah, at the end of the day, that's a pretty good one, I guess. Well, thank you both, Jean and Nicole. We appreciate your work, and it sounds like a fun partnership, and it's just an awesome thing that your community seems to love it, and both of you are seeing benefits, very complementary, and definitely a profitable partnership, which is what we're hoping for.